more about.
What is record right now? I don't want to think about it when we turn it on live. So
Say that again.
we're being recorded now on my computer, so we can. This conversation actually is pretty helpful. But I think that the message I'm thinking I'm hearing today is that your brain is offline. You can't think straight. Anger is your last ditch effort to regain control, and it's destructive. So I think your comment about understanding, recognizing clues that you're angry, just intellectually saying it's not safe to interact. You just got to pull yourself out of the fray. So that's where my saying comes in: no action in a reaction.
Yeah.
Is that a fair? That would be my Davidism.
Absolutely. Very well.
I gotta come. I gotta keep up with these lessons. Damn it!
No, man, there's nothing.
This is serious competition. We're going national with this competition, man. I'm telling you. All right. We'll go live here in about 1 second. Let me just get my head around. And then we'll just pop. We'll stop a little bit early so we hop on the Portage meeting really quickly.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to bail on. I've got a consult at 7:30, so
Okay.
I'm covering for my colleague who has MS.
Oh
So
God.
hey,
Are you able to hop on for 15 minutes or no?
not even so right now finally we've got approval from Spine Zone to move forward because it was
Okay.
waxing.
All right. I'll pass that on. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Morning, David.
Les, how you doing?
I beat you to the punch on that one.
It's my turn to say good morning first.
It was? I'll
I'm
roast you.
I'm angry at you.
Sounds like that's a great topic for us to talk about, anger.
Right. So we're going to spend a few weeks here on anger, and it sounds like a lot of time to spend on anger. But remember, by the way, we're at dynamic healing moments. And the reason why we call it dynamic healing, because symptoms and disease and healing are an interaction between your environment and your nervous system. And then your chemical output is the final result. So with anger, I've changed this dramatically since I've been working with Dr. Arya about the role of the autonomic nervous system in all these emotions. So remember, you have the input, then you have your nervous system, and then you have the output. So when you're angry, your body is sensing threat, you've lost control, your body's chemistry is way up. In the process, anger, you have to address all three aspects of it. So what we're talking about today is that when you're angry, you'll remember anxiety and anger are the same thing. When you lose control, your body kicks in more stress chemicals to regain control, and you are now fired up. We're trying to get rid of the words anxiety and anger and using the word activated, hyperactivated, and dysregulated. So dysregulated means you're out of control. Your body is all over the map. And when you're angry, would you call it dysregulated, Les? Is that a reasonable term?
Yeah, absolutely, because you're really offline. So
And what happens to your brain, blood flow, et cetera, when you're angry?
a couple of things. Most people don't realize this, and sometimes docs and good folks, that when you actually get angry, there's a burst of catecholamines and neurotransmitters, and it can actually kind of heighten your energy to the point where it's like, we all have been there where everything is just so intense and we try to bring it down. We don't seem to. We try to think a way out of it, and that starts with the problem. But in the physiology of that, or the neuroanatomy part, is there's the catecholamine burst. It's just a bunch of brain chemicals that just flood us. That's one. And we often, David, we talk about this, and Stephen Porges also talks about this, is the HPA axis, the hypothalamic, geez, I can't even speak this morning, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal gland, HPA, that produces the cortisol. And so you have this, and you talk a lot about the surge of chemistry in our body and our brain, and it floods us, and to the point where it's the whole muscles tense up. It's gearing us for fight or flee. You got that going on in your brain. Your body is tensing up, and the front part of your brain. This is the part I want everyone to know that you talk about getting back online, is that when you're angry, the front part of your brain, it's like a Wi-Fi, it goes offline because you don't need to think when you're in survival mode. You need to get out of there or fight your way out. And so the most primitive parts of our brain, the limbic system and the brainstem, the animal brain, the emotional brain, they just flood us and dominate us because it's in service of survival.
Well, anger is also destructive because it's all about you. You're going to survive no matter what. It destroys relationships, it destroys awareness. It's the essence of abuse because anger is actually the blood flow to your thinking centers is compromised. It goes to your primitive centers and you can't think right.
Yeah.
And it took me years to figure out that, I mean, anger is the tipping point of solving chronic pain, period. You're trapped by pain, you're angry, you're frustrated. The problem is when you're angry, I call it temporary insanity. You just cannot think.
I
So
like
what
that.
I found out was that,
I like that. I'm going to say that to the next time my dog gets me upset about something.
are we putting a Davidism out here? I'm trying to keep
Oh
these
my
lessons
God,
up.
here we go.
Okay. So here's my Davidism. I'll come up with my real Davidism for the day.
No.
But right now, what I learned is that when people can process their anger, they heal. I call it the shortcut to healing because you're trapped by pain, you're trapped by circumstances, it's all mixed up, but your brain's actually inflamed. I
Yeah.
mean, you're hypersensitized, the blood flow is compromised. It really is temporary insanity. So we should talk about forgiveness. And forgiveness is part of it, but that addresses the input. But how can you intellectually forgive when you can't even think straight? So the first step, and this is what I learned from you with your breath work, et cetera, is you got to get back online before you can actually process the rest of the problem. So we now call it anger processing.
Yeah.
So again, input nervous system and the output, but you have to calm yourself down first before you can address the other problem. So here's my Davidism. You ready for this?
I'm afraid, but I'm buckling up. Go ahead.
No, I mean, anger for me has been a big problem. I came from a tough background. I get really triggered and it's not pretty. It's just not good. But I can't stop it, can't help it. We know it's necessary to survive. And so again, it's a dysregulated nervous system. So I do know that I'm now not thinking clearly. I do recognize that. So you have to recognize that you're angry, also recognize that it's destructive, and you're not acting rationally. So it destroys things. So my Davidism is no action in a reaction. How's that?
Wow, that's deep. I feel so enlightened this morning already.
Okay, so I'm still like 10 behind, but that's my one Davidism is no action in a reaction.
Yeah. So David, I got a couple of comments on that. I really sincerely, I read that in your email, and that's a great statement. I pause there when I do that. So absolutely, I agree with you. Great Davidism. So I've got a couple of comments about anger, and some my patients often ask. So I really am not angry, or so what I have a psychologist. We have something called primary emotions and secondary emotions. Sometimes, let me give you an example. When someone says they're not angry or anxious, because we kind of believe it's the same continuum, right?
Right.
So here's this. When someone cuts you off in the road, very often we go, we get into this fear response, and then we go, son of a gun. See, that's secondary. And often I believe the reason why I'm very angry is because we deeply are fearful of something. Let me give you another example. A child, a toddler, breaks loose from the front door and runs to the middle of the street, thinking it's funny, looking back at the mom or the dad. And as the mom and dad chases after the child, the mom or dad are just frantic in fear that something will happen to that toddler. And the toddler is laughing. And when the parent grabs the child, then the anger comes about.
Right.
What we talk about in psychology is there's a primary and secondary emotion. And very often what you see on the outside has something deeper on the inside.
So, what is your one tip for the day? Because this is a complicated process. It's not hard, but there's many layers to it. So, I think the first step is recognizing that anger is temporary insanity. I think awareness is key because what's really tricky about this, when you're angry, you actually lose awareness because you're not thinking. So, learning to become aware when you're angry to me is a major step. And then we talk about the disguises of anger later. But what I tend to do is I'm angry, but I'm just being self-critical or I'm being critical. Well, that's still anger. So we can talk about the disguises of anger later, but just understanding anger is not clear thinking, it's survival. So to me, recognizing my tip of the day is just recognize that anger is temporary insanity and just resolve to take that deep breath. And what you say, I liked your advice a couple of days ago, just saying, huh.
Yeah, exactly. Bring curiosity. And just if this anger is often, like I said, between a mild to moderate level, you still have a lot of influence over this. And so
Right.
what I want to mention is this, here's my tip of the day. Notice when you are talking with someone or you're dealing with a difficult text or an email, a bill, or just even thinking about certain things. This weekend, Memorial Day is coming up, right? So traffic and hassles. When you talk to someone, pay attention to left side or right side of your shoulders. So very often, most of my patients, when they're angry, their right side, they tend to feel tension in the right side of their body. Just pay attention to it. And those of my patients who feel very fearful, like something bad imminently is going to occur, they notice the left side. So just notice the somatic sensations in your body. And if it's right side, you're more often drunk in your complaints. You're over-identifying with those self-evaluative thoughts of yourself and others. So pay attention to the sensations to the right side of your body. That will give you a big clue. And of course, I'm sorry people might get irritated with this, but your breath work is very important. Breathing is the remote control of your nervous system.
No, I think it's I mean, honestly, that's changed my whole practice because I could not understand for years if somebody is really angry, why I couldn't talk to them.
Yeah.
And so what I'm now learning, the breath work, you have to get online before you can be
Yeah.
rational. You just cannot be rational, especially if you're really angry for years, trapped in pain. Dr. Sarno called it rage. You're not
Yeah.
thinking clearly. And
Yeah.
so you just have to calm down first. And no, I agree. Your breath, what is the term again?
See, you walked right into it. Thank you so much. See, David, that was my lessism. Ready?
Okay,
Okay, here's it. You got to write this down, David.
okay,
Your,
got it.
your breath, your breath is the remote control to your nervous system. See, I slipped it in there, David.
You did slip it in. Whereas now now I'm back behind again. So again, and the reason for that, we'll talk about this more later, but really the breath work directly stimulates the vagus nerve, which is anti-inflammatory. In anger, your inflammatory markers are through the roof. And so what you're doing is not some psychological mental construct. You're directly stimulating the vagus nerve, which is the most powerful anti-inflammatory aspect of the entire body. So anyway, Les, thank you. I have my Lesism for the day. Don't forget my Davidism.
No,
No,
I didn't take it yours, of
no
course.
action and a reaction. And you can find my work at thedocjourney.com. And also my book is Back in Control, A Surgeon's Roadmap Out of Chronic Pain. And Dr. Arya, where can we find you?
You can find me on YouTube. Please check me out on mindfulness. That's MYNDFULNESS. That's mindfulness channel in YouTube. And you can also find me on remedypain.co.
And that's where Dr. Arya has wonderful types of breath work that I was not familiar with before. And a year and a half ago, I didn't even hear about the vagus nerve. So it's been a whole new world and much more effective, and we're excited about it. So have a great day, everybody. And remember, no action and a reaction, and your breath is the remote control of your mind. Is that right?
Yep.
Not bad for an orthopedic surgeon. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you.